Hello viewers, you're welcome to The Stimulus. My name is Frank Kabushenga and I'm happy to come your way with The Stimulus. The Stimulus is your one-stop center for inspiration or motivation, call it motivation. We're in a time when everybody needs one word of wisdom to pick up the mat and work and continue with business and meet your purpose or your set goals. And so your Stimulus is your program that brings you this platform to make sure that you're well attuned to your environment regardless of the conditions that you're in. And today I am pleased to host Miss Diana Angwechi. Diana, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Frank. I am pleased to be here.
Great. Diana is the current Vice President of Uganda Law Society. So she has taken quite some good strides to attain that position, and I'm happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
So Diana, before we go to our topic for today, could you give us just a snippet of your journey to this position of being the Vice President of Uganda Law Society? What did it take? How did it start? And how did it eventually end?
I think you know the ending by now. But I think the thing that we started 2 years ago.
Yep.
I started to prep about 2 years ago because I knew where I was going and what I felt my career journey as well as my leadership journey would look like.
Yep.
And so 2 years into prepping for this, nominations happened. And nominations were a big deal.
Okay.
Because for the first time, you had many people vying for posts that has never happened in the Uganda Law Society. And so when nominations happened, I was nominated. I was very pleased to be nominated. And then the journey began. So the way our law is set up is that you have only 4 weeks to campaign, and then it's the election date.
And it is also a scientific kind of thing?
No, actually, we usually gather to do the annual general meeting at Entebbe, and there every candidate comes and campaigns to the members of the society, and you're able to elect your leaders. So 2 weeks into the elections, lockdown happened.
Wow.
So lockdown happened, and suddenly we had to face a campaign season with no end in mind.
Yep.
And you are not allowed to campaign to people outside of the membership. You had to campaign to your members. And we started a period of reaching our members on WhatsApp groups, trying to reach them in every different fora that a member was.
Yep.
I think it was the longest 6 months of anybody's life. 6 months of trying to show why you should be the leader without having position. And you know, at the time there were so many acts coming out. There were many things coming out, and everybody would want you to give a position. They would want you to show why you are the better person for that particular post. I think it was very interesting because they tested us mentally, they tested us, they tested our ability to think fast. They tested so much about the candidate. And I like to say that so many of us had our insecurities at the front, and we had to learn to deal with them. I told someone, at the end of this journey, we will know what kind of leader you are at the end of what kind of leader, depending on how you handled the journey. And 6 months into it, we had our election last Saturday.
Yep.
And I'm glad to say that I was elected as the Vice President, Uganda Law Society, unprecedented, because for the first time we have 4 women at the top. And people keep saying 4 women, but there are also 4 men on the council. But it's the highest number of women that have been elected to that position. It's the highest number of women that are in the first executive positions. And I think it's a first of so many things. A president who's a female, a vice, a female. I cannot wait to see what that looks like at the end of the day.
That's great. So Diana, that brings us to our today's topic. And to the viewer, today we are talking about a positive attitude. When you are when one moves to seek for employment, the employer is looking for skills. While some other employers have said, no, we would like to have also someone who is talented. So you have the skill and the talent. But for my experience, I've realized that if you do not have a positive attitude, then chances are high that that skill or that talent is likely to bear very minimal results or none at all. And so that brings us to speak about this topic, about positive attitude. And maybe before we go yet deeper into it, how best would you define a positive attitude?
When I think of a positive attitude, I think of a hard time, because you cannot speak about a positive attitude without speaking about how people are going through hard times and hard situations.
Yep.
So my best definition of a positive attitude is staying, I was going to say staying positive, but is staying with a good mental thought or idea through whatever situation you're going through at the time.
Yep.
It's keeping your mind focused on why you were there, and being able to say, regardless of what happens, I will stay above the waves.
Okay. And yeah, you're right. And I think the times we're in right now bring out probably a better example on the outer world where one needs a positive attitude. For example, if you're running a school and now you can never get to know when you resume business, or you're one of those guys who are not working, your business depended so much on crowds, and so what is it that gets you going?
Would that be me in particular or generally everybody else? So I think it's an interesting time for generally everybody in the professional, whether it's professional business sector, because we're each facing challenges. It's easy to think that nobody has taken a hit, but everybody has taken a hit in this season, and we have to acknowledge that. Depending on what anybody is facing at this point in time, I think that attitude changes so much about how you focus on what matters, and understand that regardless of what's happening, each of us is going through it in our separate ways, in our different ways. But what will make the difference for us is how we view and deal with the circumstances before us. So I would say for me in this season, I have had to rise above the waves. Okay. I have had to say, regardless of what's happening in this season, what was my focus? Where do I want to end up at the end of the day? What do I want to do different? And how can I achieve my goals regardless of what is happening?
Right. Might be a little more elaboration on the importance of a positive attitude. Here you're looking at a wide array of work or work arena, and just give us a few thoughts.
I think for me, positive attitude has changed the way I deal with life generally. I think I worked in a place where when I joined, the team was going through, they were ranked as one of the worst teams, I think, in that space at the time. Okay. And you know, workplaces are set up in departments. So usually sometimes they would pity one department against the other. Yep. And one department got along much more than we did at the time. And I think the lead at the time was struggling in how to form team unity. Okay. At the time. And I think I was among the youngest people on joining the team at that point. And so when I got in, I decided that we would be the best team at the end of the day. So I decided to get to work with the leader to do a lot of team building. The common factor amongst us is that we were all believers. Okay. And so we had to leverage on the things that were shared values and say, how do we work together? So we pulled out certain principles that mattered to all of us, and use them to team build, use them to speak to one another, use them to serve one another. And at the end of that journey, instead of holding my breath as I entered the gate, I was able to, first of all, break every divide between the teams. It was a multiracial setting at the time. And so those situations can be quite difficult because people don't know how to work closely with one another. I chose not to see color. I chose not to see technique. I chose to treat everybody in a way that I would want to be treated. Yep. And particularly for my team, I pushed people to go out and do more than they could. And so that resulted into us becoming one of the best teams at the end of the day, and a promotion for the person who was a leader at the end of the day. Wow. So I didn't join everyone with the complaints, because I think workplaces sometimes when they're small, they can descend into complaining and people grumbling. And I chose never to do that, because I thought, first of all, with our shared principles, we should never have done that. But also it would change the way we felt about our work. So it helped some people get promotions. It allowed us to be the best team at the end of the day. And it changed for me my view on how I approach workplaces. So I think one of the things I tell people is, you're not going to find a perfect workplace.
Yep.
You will never find something that is perfect. Sometimes we think that when I am the boss, it will get better. When I own my business, it will get better.
Yeah, when I go for greener pastures.
When I get more money, it will get better. But teams have to do with dealing with people. And people are people. So you have to deal with that dynamic constantly. I think another scenario for me was when I worked in some place I also worked with. I remember my boss at the time got angry with me because he wanted something, but he hadn't given me full instruction. I had done what he wanted, but he expected me to go over and above, but I did not know what exactly he wanted. And it was a deadline matter, and it was very important.
So the targets were not articulately communicated?
No, they were not. And so with my little understanding of what he wanted, I delivered to him. And because of the sensitivity of the matter and the deadline to it, he got angry and he shouted, I remember. I was very disappointed. So as he walked out, I went to my desk, I picked up my bag, I packed it. I said, I don't need this. I don't need this. I did. I said, I don't need this. I can still find food. I can still do everything. But when I stood up, I remember, and I picked my bag, I was reminded about something from the good book that says, when the king's anger rises up against you, do not leave your post.
Okay.
And in that moment, I stood for a second, then I sat down.
You got back.
So I sat down and I thought to myself, okay, how do I deal with this going forward? And when he came back, I think he realized that he had gone over and above.
Yep.
And
thank God
you
had sat back.
Yes, and he had not found an empty place. So when he came back, I remember I did not know how to approach it, and he spent time recognizing that something had gone wrong, and he wanted to try and rebuild it. I am glad to say that we are friends to this moment. He's someone I lean on and I run to, and because I stayed, I am where I am today because I was able to sit in that moment and relax. I think that having worked with him, so many doors opened for me.
Great. I think we'll take a break at this
Yes.
and pick it up from there.
All right.
Thank you.